Hello and welcome to Zero Pucks Given, the UK ice hockey podcast. We are in partnership with Blades Belong on Your Feet, the charity fighting knife crime with ice skating, and we are sponsored by Ivory Tower Fitness, the premier private gym and personal training studio in Colchester. A season review episode here this week. We're going to run through each team in the league, have a look at their top performers and their best results. Obviously, we've already done 1 and 2 with Chris and Joe last week going over Streatham and Solent. We've got a little update on the Cheiftains end of season awards evening, who won what, as well as Academy and some GB results too. This week's episode also has a couple of guests. I'm joined by one of the long stays of UK ice hockey media, Anthony Russel from Banners on the Wall, who's going to be doing the season review with me. And I am joined by long-time Cheiftains fan favourite, Sonny Phillips. But let's get started with the news from the Cheiftains end of season awards. The presentations were kicked off with a nice speech from Danny Wright. He was joined on the mic by Captain Callum Burnett, who presented the first award for Players Player of the Season. And we are running out of superlatives for this lad. He's been a fan favourite since he broke into the team and is so popular in the dressing room, not only for his incredible level of performances, but his natural charm and charisma. This season, he's done the entire team and club proud, and recently his country. Players Player of the Season was Luca Tassadri. On to Coach's Player of the Season then. Anthony Leone took the mic as he stepped up to take the bench for the end of the season, and his choice for his Player of the Year was one of the new players. He plays every time he's available, he works incredibly hard, puts his body on the line and always takes one for the team. Coach's Player was Dan Hitchens. On to another coveted award, the Supporters Player of the Year. The fans have been voting, and the outcome was no surprise really. This player never stops, come hard knock or facial injury. Probably the fastest skater on the team. Chips in with the odd goal too. Supporters Player of the Season was TJ Fillery. There was a few special player awards as well, some fun ones for the biggest threat to fans, which went to Dan Fay. Worst dressed went to George Gell, who was unfortunately not in attendance for us all to see how bad he was dressed. Best dressed to the main man, Anthony Leone. Dick of the Year to Callum Burnett for dislocating his shoulder during a celly. Smelliest kit to Dan Hitchens. Most time on the physio table to James Pentecost. Least likely to shower was a landslide for Jaden Bulker. However, there were some big ones amongst these awards, which were Best Fight, which was won by Kieran Rayner for his tilt down at Invicta, ended by a sweet uppercut. Goal of the season, which was obviously the between-the-legs top-shelf finish in the Cup against Oxford City Stars for Grant Bartlett. Most Improved Player was a very popular award, and this young man has not only been through an unbelievable ordeal personally, spent some time riding the pine due to the imports on the ice rule, but became indispensable, and when we all look forward to seeing more of him in the future. Most Improved Player went to Sasha Maltsev. The Sportsman of the Year went to our Supporters Player of the Year, TJ Fillery, as popular amongst the lads as he is amongst the fans. And the final one was the Club MVP, the Most Valuable Player, and it went to the ever-popular Luca Tassadri. And that's the awards evening over and done with. Congratulations to all the boys for winning their awards, all very well deserved. In the academy this weekend in the under-16s, Tomahawks had 2 games. They beat Swindon by 2-0, and they beat Slough by 5-0. Fantastic weekend for the Tomahawks. 7 scored, none conceded. The under-18s, Mohawks, they were at home to Swindon on Sunday. They took the lead in the first minute when Alex Howe scored unassisted. But unfortunately, 3 goals from Swindon in 9 third period minutes put the game to bed, and they took away the 3-1 victory. The swan song there for Luca Tasadri, Migis Canis and Chris Beckett, all Cheiftains, of course, making their under-18s final appearance. The GB ladies then, they have now returned from their trip to Korea, where they did what they kind of hoped to do. They've stayed in the same division. They didn't go down, they didn't go up. But it was a little bit of the results kind of showing that it wasn't as good a trip as it actually was. The performances, if you'd watched them, they played fantastic hockey a lot of the time and were quite unlucky. A couple of dodgy decisions in a couple of the games as well going against them. They had a 50-50 in the warm-up games. They beat Poland 6-2 and they lost 3-1 to Kazakhstan. And they were reversed, actually, as they played in the group stage. They beat Kazakhstan by 1-0. Poland beat them by 2-1. They lost 2-0 to Italy in an incredibly physical game, and were beaten 3-2 by Korea with an extremely close buzzer goal for the third goal that no one could quite see whether it hit the net went over the line before the buzzer, but the goal was given in Korea. Shocker. And then they finished against Slovenia with a 4-3 defeat with a shootout. Just 5 each in the shootout. Slovenia took it 1-0, so the 4-3 result stands there. The girls are now home. The under-16s, they went out to a tournament with Chelmsford players Joe Tamarlin and Harrison Prentice. They finished 9th out of 16 teams. They had 5 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat, so a very successful trip for the GB 16s. And hopefully I might well be chatting to Joe Tamarlin and Harrison Prentice at some point. They can tell me all about their trip to Riga and how it went for them. So what we're going to do now is jump into a season review. We obviously spoke with Chris and Joe last week, and we did Solent and Streatham. I'm going to be joined by Anthony Russell from Banners on the Wall, and we're going to take the rest of the league.
Let's ruin everything! Everything gets ruined! Everything! Let's ruin everything! Let's ruin everything! Yeah! Let's ruin everything! Everything gets ruined! Everything! Let's ruin everything! Let's ruin everything! Woo!
Zero Pucks Given in partnership with Blades Belong on Your Feet and sponsored by Ivory Tower Fitness. We are joined by one of UK ice hockey's long stays in the media world, Anthony Russell from Banners on the Wall. How you doing this evening, sir?
Not too bad, thank you, mate. Not to pull back the curtain too much on people, but it's a Monday evening, so I can't think of many better things to get rid of Monday and the fact that it's absolutely weeing it down outside than to talk about ice hockey for a little bit of time. So thank you very much for having me on.
Well, you've just told me you won't be streaming this Wednesday, so we went for Monday so that I didn't make you do 2 nights in a row.
Nah, I did say to people last week on the What's Current stream that I was going to have. I think I've earned a week off. I think I didn't miss a week through the season. Streamed sort of between periods of games and did all kinds of bits and pieces. So the fact that, especially given Basingstoke's end of the season, it's been very, very sort of busy with writing stuff about what's happened with the Bison into playoffs, into post-playoff bits and pieces. Now I think I've earned a week off from streaming. So not that it'll disappear entirely over the summer, but the frequency always slows down, and then come September, back to it. Full speed.
Absolutely. I think you're probably my penultimate. I think I've got one more next week. I've got a special for the Solent Devils fans. I've actually got Chico Cole coming on to talk about his retirement and give him a little chance to say goodbye to all the fans as well. And then hopefully
quality player Chico.
Yeah,
it's always a bit of a shame that he never got the opportunity to kind of play a little bit higher. I think that small stint at Whiteling, which just didn't really work out for him, I think kind of sort of dented things in some ways. I'd be really interested to hear his thoughts on that. So there you go, Chico. There's your first question before you even started. But yeah, quality player. I think Joe Scutts from NIHL Stats worked out that sort of at third tier level, the fact he finishes with a career save percentage over 92%. Just should have had a look in at a much higher level, but that's not where life takes us. Sometimes Chico is a boy of the South Coast, and he's stayed there. And I hopefully as and when those decisions eventually get made, because I don't believe Solent have any retired jerseys. But to be honest, I think they probably should have taken the number 1 off of him in Milton Keynes and just gunned it to the wall. Run it back down the motorway and put it straight on the wall in Gosport. Because I think if anyone deserves that honour for Solent and Gosport, I think it's probably Chico.
Yeah, he was my netminder in my team of the year for NIHL 1 South as well. It's obviously I've been at Chelmsford. I've seen a couple of good ones myself with Luca Tasadri and Sonny Phillips, but
he is. Chico Cole is the best in the league without a doubt.
Yeah, very much so.
So unfortunately, I for us, I cut our workload down slightly with Joe and Chris last week. I did the season reviews of Solent and Streatham. So we're going to go with the rest of the league, and we're going to work from the bottom up and start with the 8th place Milton Keynes Thunder. 9 points in total, I believe, that they gathered throughout the year. 3 wins, 22 losses, 3 overtime losses, and a 22-0 defeat to Streatham in there. Did that reverberated around the UK hockey world? That didn't it?
I think it did, but I think the problem sometimes people have with these kind of things is that the extremes get taken as symptoms of the bigger virus rather than kind of looking more at things, more looking at the whole thing. The real big issue I think for the Thunder this year was kind of the loss of Tom Carlon and Gareth O'Flaherty when they decided to move to Telford, which, to be fair, can't blame either of them for.
No.
And very much for Tommy Carlon, kind of like the big last hurrah for him. But I think the issue I think for the Thunder was just the massive drop off following those two leaving, because you lose 2 elder statesmen of British hockey, because now Carlon and Gareth have both called time, and that was a real chance for somebody to step up into that role and think, yeah, we've lost these 2 big guys, and yeah, maybe we are going to finish bottom of the table, but let's keep it close. And actually, the beginning of the year, one of the things that struck me with MK was that they weren't losing by massive amounts. You know, they were kind of, they were losing games, but they were hanging around. Yeah. And actually, when you're a really, really young roster like MK are in the main, to hang around is sometimes what you need to do, because the Thunder's meant to be this idea of pulling through those MK under 16s and 18s into senior hockey. It's great. And then Carl and O'Flaherty leave, and they just went off. They went off a cliff faster than a rock with a rocket attached to it.
Yeah,
I think
before those 2 left, they beat Raiders 9-4. I think that was actually at the Sapphire. They come to the Riverside and won 4-1 as well at the start of the season. So yeah, before those 2 did make their way up to Telford, they were getting results.
Yeah, and it's just it's one of those things, isn't it? And I mean, you look at the biggest story really with a team like this, as with any team towards the bottom of the table, is just the sheer lack of goal scoring. 65 goals in 28 games just isn't enough. We can obviously the goals against is going to look slightly lopsided, because if you ship what looks 22-0 the first couple of overs of a decent cricket match. Yeah. But yeah, if you think as well, I mean, the only team that every team scored over 100 goals in South 1, bar 2. One was MK and the other was Slough, who only scored 79 goals.
Yeah.
Amazingly this year. But you think of how much more effective, but Slough were much more effective and much more clinical, I think, than MK. I feel really bad. I do feel a bit bad for the Thunder and the folk who regularly go there. And there are, again, rumours swirling around when it comes to the Thunder as to whether they drop down into South 2. I don't necessarily know whether it's the worst thing for them to do that, given the rumours of some teams that want to come up into South 1, but these are the sort of things that will work their way out during the summer, I think.
Yeah, I think it does need a restructure. It's something I discussed in previous episodes, I think with actually Chris and Joe last week, that having 8 teams in this league and 13 in the one below creates no real sort of playoff drama in this league, because everybody qualified for the quarterfinals. And like I said, I don't think that it's doing Milton Keynes any favours getting tonked 22-0, 14-3, 11-1 as they were towards the end of the season.
I think
if they was dropped down,
yeah, if they drop down, there's a lot there. The thing I'd say in response to that, though, is and it's for people who've paid attention a little bit to things up in the north, is you look at a team like the Nottingham Lions. The Nottingham Lions had a period of time pre-pandemic where they got beaten like a piñata at a kids' party, and these things do sort of come in cycles. And there's meant to be some decent crops of youngsters in Milton Keynes that are starting to slowly bleed their way through, and not every kid is going to be in a position where they can step straight up to the Lightning. I think of a player like Ollie Nags, for example, who has been very, very highly spoken about by a lot of people who I know who watch Milton Keynes hockey and not just the Lightning. But it sometimes takes time. These things work in cycles. I remember Streatham being absolute dog for years, celebrating not being relegated, that level's worth of stuff. And I think the thing is this the trick for Milton Keynes here? Is this them going through the down before they come up, or is this there's just not enough there and they need to maybe step step backwards to step forwards a little bit, as it were. There's questions in the air there that I don't think either of us can answer easily on a Monday night.
No, I would agree. I think going down to the 2 will probably help some of the young players that are coming through. Obviously, the level of commitment in the 2 is slightly less than the 1, so that may help them. In terms of coming up from 2, I mean, I've always sort of pointed at Haringey Huskies, perhaps the Peterborough Phantoms, and the Guildford Phoenix.
I think you need to look further west for a team that would be in a much better position to step up into the 1, which for me is Bristol.
Well, yeah.
I think the
still got their 1 team, really, haven't they, in the 2?
Yeah, and I mean it's the and they've done that for they've obviously done that for the reasons that they chose to do it. I don't know why they didn't try to hang around in Div 1, but maybe just having that little bit of separation, as it were, probably helped. And also some of those guys that were playing Div 1. Dropping into Div 2, in some ways you end up with more games because there's more teams to play. But I think there's certainly a couple of teams that would definitely look to step up. But the question I think for a lot of these guys who are playing Div 2 is they're playing Div 2 because they want to play, but they don't want that level's worth of travel and commitment, which sounds a bit of a misnomer with South 2 because you go as far east as Gillingham and as far west as Cardiff Bay.
Cardiff, yeah.
But certainly the ability, you can. It's much easier for guys to duck out and maybe get a bit of the the Severn Bridge flu and not fancy travelling across into God's country. But I think there's definitely a couple of teams. Haringey getting the plexi put into Ali Pally, I think, is massive, and I think is probably a statement of intent from them towards if they don't go this September, maybe they go the year after. Yeah. Guildford will be an interesting one because I wonder if they moved into South 1, what their arrangement would be with things like ice time at the Spectrum. The Spectrum's a very, very busy place, and also well loved, I think is probably the best way to describe the Spectrum now after that many years. So whether what they choose to do, there definitely needs to be a restructure. And if Milton Keynes decided to drop down for whatever reason, and it's entirely it's their decision, but if they did drop down, there's definitely at least a couple of teams who would definitely have a very, very serious conversation amongst themselves to step into Milton Keynes' shoes if they wanted to do so.
To finish off Milton Keynes with a couple of their players that I think have had good years for them, obviously, despite what looks on paper quite a disappointing year. Alex White was their top point scorer. He has, of course, left for Pastures New, of which we're not entirely sure yet.
Even though we can all probably guess.
There's probably rumours, but yeah. Yeah, he has. And I think Hayden Hagger had a fantastic year as well.
Not a guy I'm massively familiar with. The name of their young netminder is escaping me, but I've heard some very, very good things.
Graziano.
Yes. I've heard some very, very good things about that young man. Obviously, unfortunately, got lit up like a Christmas tree a little bit the other week. But there's been a lot of very, very good things said about him across the entirety of the season, not just in a sorry we shelled you kind of levels worth of stuff. Bless his heart. Yeah. He's up desperately trying to find his proper name. So I want to say his actual name, Vincent Graziano.
Vincent Graziano, yeah. I think he's actually made the under-18 draft selection as well.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. It's a good thing, a good way for a couple of these younger guys who are kind of on the edges of things like sort of North and South 1 to just get a little bit of extra hockey. Their last little bit of under-18s before they have to kind of kiss juniors goodbye. Their last chance to play with some of their mates they might not get to play with again. So fair play to the lad. I mean, just skipping through, when you think of how much. Of how many pucks both him and Craig Bradfield have faced this season, for the both of them to have, I mean, Craig Bradfield's ended up with an 89, nearly a 90 save percentage on the MK Thunder with a goals against of 6. Like, that's mad. Yeah. that's a good year on a bad team. And Vincent's ended up with an nearly 84% save percentage with a goals against of over 8. Like, that is a tough gig. So the fact people are still speaking about Vincent in decent terms, I think, says something about his play.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, if he's having one of those nights, he can actually make it quite frustrating for you, especially if you're able to sort of get through the Thunder and create the chances. Yeah. He does tend to stand on his head quite regularly. And we actually had at Chelmsford Sunday, we had 3 of our Cheiftains players make their final bow for the under-18s. So they're done with juniors now. So it's coming time for quite a few of the lads now. So moving up then from 8th into 7th is the Oxford City Stars there. We did discuss just before we came on air, actually discussed one of their players previously. 24 points, 11 wins, 15 defeats, 2 overtime losses. They actually had, I think 7th looks harsh on them. I think they actually had quite a good year.
I think that's sort of it felt a little bit like Southie was kind of split a little bit into kind of 3 kind of sections, which was kind of Solent, Streatham and Solent kind of lurking around the top, because even though Solent we knew were going to be the more dominant force in this league, Solent always kept them within arm's reach. And then you had this sort of weird middle pack of Slough playing well, but then having dips, and Invicta being in and out, and Chelmsford kind of being in and out in that sort of middle raft of it. And then you had the 3 sort of a little further down, which was Romford, which was Romford, Oxford, and MK. You almost could put MK on their own a little bit as the further the season went on, and yeah, I mean, like Romford's making of the finals weekend felt like them very much kind of punching above their weight again, because their league form was just Romford's league form yo-yoed all over the place, and we'll talk about that in a bit, obviously. But Oxford, like you say, yeah, I mean Oxford, it felt like at times they just never quite got their claws into into getting a really, really good run going. I mean, just sort of quick trying to skim through, looking at bits and pieces here, because of course, obviously they've had the cup chucked into this as well, and I'm just trying to see. So they're a 5-game losing streak, a 6-game losing streak, but they never sort of won more than like 1 or 2, like 3 on the bounce is their longest winning streak of the season. Yeah. And you think if there's a couple of games in there as well where they lost them by not an awful lot. There was a couple of games right at the beginning of the year. They went on a 3-game winning streak to start the season, and then lost 4 on the bounce, all by a goal. Yeah. And it's the difference between an okay side and a good side is the ability to convert those 1-goal losses into one goal wins, even if you have to sort of squeak them out in overtime a little bit. But that Oxford side I think is kind of a team that's more than a sum of its parts. There's not a ton of people. I mean, there's obviously names people recognise, like Dax Hedges feels like he's been around forever, but But there's no. I think this is a team, and it's a very Simon Anderson coaching trait that's kind of more than the sum of its parts. Kind of levels worth of stuff. Like, yeah, there's names. There's a few people in there, and obviously the arrangement with Bristol. So they had people like Bailey Hind Pitcher coming in. Josh Abbott stepped up from Guildford and winning a Grand Slam last year, and obviously we talked about Xander Wardlaw as well.
Joe Llewellyn they had from Bristol as well, and when that man is on the ice, he is enormous. Yeah. I stood behind him in the queue for the bar at Milton Keynes last year, and I couldn't see the bar.
That is a large lad. But yeah, you think about, like, it's obviously not a very, very long schedule in South One. Was it like 28 games in the regular season? And I mean, there's guys who've obviously been in and out of that little bit of the roster, but you think there's some pretty decent performances in there. Like we talked about Wardlaw's over a point a game, Josh Abbott over a point per game, Aaron Moody over a point per game. Bailey Hind Pitcher only played 13 games, but had 23 points. Matt Lawday was a point a game. Dax Hedges himself was just over a point per game. And there's lots of little bits and pieces of kind of putting it together. There's no superstars there. I can't remember, but I haven't seen a full whack all-star, whether an all-star team was done for South One this year. But it feels like Oxford, if they can convert some of those narrow losses into wins, they're starting to pull themselves into that conversation more with your Invicta, with your Chelmsford, with your Slough. Because I think for Oxford to leap that high up where they're starting to challenge Streatham straight away might be a little bit beyond the ask, even if Simon Anderson's very considerable coaching talent.
Well, they did have victories throughout the season. I mean, February, particularly for them, they only lost twice in February. They beat Milton Keynes and Raiders both 3 times. They beat Invicta quite comfortably in the February as well. Also beat them in the cup as well earlier in the year.
Yeah, and I think this is the issue that Oxford have had the last couple of years. It's just getting any level of consistency going, and it's just getting being able to to really sort of turn some of these bits and pieces around. I mean, there's a chunk here where I just lost which part of the date this is, but it's sort of around sort of December. That's sort of just before the December break into the new year. But they lose their last game before Christmas. They lose 6-0. Then they lose 5-4 to Chelmsford. Lose 5-3 to Invicta. Lose 4-0 to Invicta. 4-3 to Solent. Before Chelmsford gave them a bit of a whacking as well. And you think that they're not a million miles away. They're not a million miles away. But you can think, but there's probably a few people, and people listening as well, can probably think of those names in those rosters, whether it's Solent, Chelmsford, or Invicta, that just put Oxford just that little bit behind the 8 ball before they're starting. And you can't have a team of Zander Wardlows. But you think of maybe having a Bartlett, let alone both, or you think of a Husker or a Lazchek or whoever you want to name off of Solent, even like a Steve Osman. If you think of what Steve Osman could have done on an Oxford side, with a loan, maybe like with somebody like Wardlaw and Abbott, what sort of damage they could have done. And yeah, it makes you a bit of a one-line team, but one line can do an awful lot of damage if they're given the opportunity to do so.
So yeah, I think a good season for them. I think if they can keep hold of most of that roster and add a few more in, obviously their City Stars, the Rising Stars rather, their second team, they had quite a good year. So yeah, I think they can certainly keep it competitive.
Yeah, certainly. And that Rising Stars team is obviously sort of brand new, and it's the first sort of senior hockey experience for a lot of them. I remember watching Ben Mollett skating around as a mascot in Basingstoke, doing all kinds of crazy things, like being the true netminder. But yeah, there's like Oxford's, if they can find the way to start getting, to fill those gaps when guys get older and want to do different things, to pull through some of those Rising Stars guys, and as well making use of that relationship with Bristol as well, because Bristol are going to attract players that are going to need, whether it's from the 2s or the 1s needing to come down and get ice time. There's going to be guys who are going to who they'll be able to kind of supplement the lineup with and kind of do some bits and pieces with. So
yeah, excellent stuff for them. Up into 6th place then, we've got the Raiders Junior, 25 points, 11 wins, 14 defeats, 3 overtime losses. Their top point scorer was very, very close to making my all-star team, to be fair, TJ Anderson.
He had a superb weekend in Coventry, TJ, and I think obviously Raiders fans in general were obviously we're very upset on that Sunday afternoon. But one of the big things, and certainly it was very, very true in the semi-final, was the story of the weekend really for the Raiders was their third line of Blaslav Novak, TJ Anderson, and Mikey Power, with sort of Jacob Ranson kind of rotating around into different positions as and when he was needed, which is very Jacob. But TJ showed up at Coventry, like really, really showed up. And when against Sheffield, where the top 6 of both sides kind of sort of nullified each other a bit, and TJ scored his second goal when the highlights eventually come out. The finish he does on a really, really experienced all-star netminder in Dimitri Zimonstra. The kid is very, very clearly on the bike and really, really wants to get going. And then he gave an equally good performance the next day. And yeah, it didn't come off against the Leeds Knights team that has been the best team in the country by a mile. Yeah. He's the thing with TJ is it's really easy to be given that opportunity and look at a place, especially on a big stage. And I've been fortunate enough to see TJ a couple of times this year, because he's just ended up playing with the seniors in Basingstoke rather than being with the Raiders. The juniors haven't had a game that night, but the one thing he's always managed to do is just make the most of the opportunity, doing something, being noticeable. You want to be noticed as a forward, so the fact he's managed to kind of do that, over a point per game in South 1, and I think the other name I'd mention in there, because I got the opportunity and he played again, he did very, very well at Coventry, Marco Pasquale.
Yes, fantastic season.
Very, very, very. It's very hard sometimes to get opportunities as a defenseman to kind of step up, because it's much easier to make a mistake and it matter on D. So it's much easier some ways for a forward to be given an opportunity. Yeah, have a couple of shifts and just skate around and go hit. Whereas it's harder on D, because if you've got 3 forwards charging towards you and you blow your coverage, you're pinned to the bench for the rest of it. So for
Yeah.
Marco to go, just looking at this, 23 points and 26 in South One from D, and he's just played in a national division playoff final as well. With all due respect to folks who like the Junior Raiders, neither of those two gentlemen should be touching South One next year.
No, I very much
TJ
doubt they will. I mean, over the course of the season, they had 4 fantastic games against Chelmsford, the real Essex derby, as we like to call it. They finished 2 apiece for the 4 games, so there can't be any complaints there. Their playoff quarter-final with Slough was just unbelievable.
Keeping tabs on this because, of course, it was happening around the end of the national division season, which I focus very, very heavily on. And I'm sitting, and because for those who aren't aware, during Basingstoke Bison games, it's me doing the match night tweeting. So I'm sat there and things are kind of rolling through as I'm keeping tabs on what I'm trying to do. And it's just like, who needs defending? Romford and Slough have just decided to abandon defence. We're going to go back to the 80s and no one's going to stop anything. And it's just a case of who's going to score more goals and we'll forget about it. And everybody and their mother seem to get a shot on net over the course of those two things. But this is the same thing. And the same thing actually with the Senior Raiders. They seem to build them different.
They never say die, do they?
Don't count them out. And I mean, as well, like you look at some of the numbers, like the penalty kill numbers, not so good. Power play numbers are like running at 20%, just under a 20% power play is not terrible. Like fair play.
Courtney Grant on the power play is just deadly. He picks up so many of his goals on the power play.
I think 10 goals on the season, of which 10 goals on the season, 4 on the power play. 6 at even strength. So that's a pretty nice, tasty percentage of the goals he's managed to score coming on the man advantage there. Not a guy I've had the opportunity to see, unfortunately. But this is the joy of doing some of these things like this. Like I've tried more over the last couple of years to try and have a broad focus and try and touch a little bit of everything, and that's what's current stream is for, to look at the whole of the NIHL. So getting the opportunity to kind of get some more context on some of these names for me is really good fun. It's going to make next year more interesting because I've got to focus more on some other stuff now.
Yeah, I mean, we'll end up probably crossing over more next year because it's Zero Pucks is actually going to expand slightly into covering the whole of the NIHL 1 South. The focus will always be Chelmsford because it's my team and it's who I watch every week. But yeah, we will certainly be talking to other coaches and other players and getting a more expansive view of the league. But good season for the Raiders. As I say, we always love the Essex Derby. With players like Courtney Grant, a lot of them, say Courtney Grant, Elliot Dervish, they've been Cheiftains before, then they're Raiders. They all float up and down the A12. So we have Callum Burnett, Ollie Baldock and the likes at Chelmsford that have been at Raiders. So yeah, they'll always float up and down the A12. It always keeps that interesting. So we'll skip over 5th because that was Cheiftains. We'll do that at the end. 4th place was the Invicta Dynamos. 29. They're a little raft of 3 teams here, including the Cheiftains, on 29 points, all with 14 wins, 13 losses. Slough and Invicta rather with the same 13 wins, 14 wins, 13 losses, 1 overtime loss. For Invicta, South Cup winners, top point scorer Jure Husk. Obviously, we'll discuss him shortly. They use their import system perfectly because Husk and Laschek, 89 points between them.
I mean, I remember Stanislav Laschek getting suspended for throwing his helmet at someone in a fight. So my experience of Stan is always slightly tempered by watching him play for Sheffield and watching him do that. Yes, well
I think
done
he's
as well.
Calmed in his older years.
Yes, well done for managing to mention the fact they won the cup and not doing it through gritted teeth. Well done.
Nah, they deserved it.
But yeah, this certainly it's been a much better year for Invicta. I think the change of ownership and Kev Parrish stepping away from the bench into an ownership role, and that's a hard thing to do. That's a really hard thing to do. Kev was Kev obviously coached the team for a really, really long time, and it's that change in how you influence what's going on. And it's a discussion that we've had in Basingstoke quite a bit, where we've had Ashley Tate as our coach. Ashley Tate is one of the best British players of his generation, record cap holder at one point for Great Britain, and he retires and goes to the bench, and that's a massive, massive change, because how Tate influenced the game was always more in how he played, even though he was player coach. If he wanted to change something, he'd go out and he could do it. If he wanted to try and score, he could go out and score a goal, and suddenly he couldn't. And you think of Kev, who was on the bench for a very, very long time. Like, he coached the Dynamos well before the EPL collapsed, and you had those EPL teams stepping into South One and playing Invicta and Chelmsford. And then he suddenly moves into being the owner, and it's obviously he's got quite a big amount of say as to what happens there. Carl Lennon's not an idiot. He's not going to not listen to his boss, but
no,
his ability to even in that point, you're not on the bench anymore. Literally just watching. Like, even though even if Carl's on the bench and he's coaching, he's still got an ability, because it's like, right, we've got a power play with 93 seconds left. I'm going to put out this guy, this guy, and this guy. There's your impact if you're a coach. And Kev's now had to remove himself from that and just sit there. And last was really hard for Invicta, and it felt really bad in that sort of sense, because I've got a lot of time for Invicta as a club. When Basingstoke were playing them, we always had some really, really, they were a bit one-sided battles, but Dynamos fans always gave as good as they got, and they were really kind of, it was the very gracious fan base was how we always kind of encountered them in Basingstoke. But yeah, so to see them having had a bit of an iffy year and have a little bit of an upswing is just nice. It's also good for the division, I think.
Absolutely,
I think
yeah.
a strong Invicta, a strong Invicta and a strong Chelmsford, if nothing else, from that rivalry perspective, if that rivalry works, then that is good for the division as well, because we can't just purely look at Streatham like tonking people every 5 minutes. The league for the league as a product, it needs to have those things to get your teeth into, which is a bit of a classic old-fashioned southeast rivalry.
Yeah.
And having, admittedly, Invicta and Chelmsford played each other like 85 times this year, and that's probably a little.
Yeah, 85, 86, something like that.
Yeah, but having the ability, but having a rivalry that was done in the right way and done in that right spirit, like having a cup final, having a cup final will do that, and the playoffs will kind of do that, where the guys have played hard but played the right way, and then you kind of move on. That's what you want. You don't want stupid rivalries where everybody's like having a line brawl every 5 minutes. That's nice once in a while, and there are definitely situations where a line brawl makes sense.
Yeah.
But you don't want it. You don't want it all the time. And Invicta have been great. Have been pretty good value for money all in all this year.
They have, and from what I've spoken to some of their players, I selected Harrison Lillis in my All-Star team, just because I think the amount of Invicta that I had a bit of stick for it from some of the Cheiftains lads actually, but the amount we've seen Invicta this year, and they have had our number this season. There's no argument about that. I think it's 10 games. They've won 8. We've drawn 1, and we took 1. And he's just so hard to get round. And they've had such a good season that they deserved a player in an all-star team for me. It's the first time I've done one. And I don't know a lot of these lads personally. So it was. I thought it was thoroughly well deserved. But Carl Lennon seems to have created an atmosphere down there of, it's like they sort of see him as a life coach. And he's brought a sort of an element to the team where they are all working so hard for each other that, similar as we said to Oxford, they become more than the sum of their parts, but their parts are very good. Richard Harris and Yuri Hushko, who unfortunately we won't be seeing any more of. But of the times I've spoken with Carl Lennon, I'm a little bit in love with Carl Lennon. I can't lie.
I'm still just amazed by the fact that Aaron Strawson's still tottering about. Bless his heart. I remember him on the Isle of Wight. But there's some really, really, getting Owen Dell back as well, when you think of the level he's been playing at as well. Massive addition towards the back end of the year. Talk about getting a ringer in for the cup final there, fellas. Well done.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
But also as well, there's that element on the back end as well. And people will rightly sing the praises of Tyler Della Bertuscia, especially even though it didn't quite work out at the end of the season in terms of Peterborough and the playoffs and things like that. But 17 years old and thrown very, very much into the fire. But fair play to Owen Ryder, who very, very easily, there's a lot of talk about Tyler, and justifiably so, because between Tyler and Luca Tasadri, they're going to be they are the immediate kind of future of British netminding in terms of things. But Owen has, I mean, his numbers are 100% not world beating. 88.9 save percentage, 4.7 goals against is not world beating numbers, but he's put him, he's put bits and pieces on his back, and where Tyler's been in and out and bouncing around for Peterborough, Owen's carried the team, and it's been Owen's net, and
it has been, yeah.
And even to the point where maybe, and obviously Tyler's availability has not been as great as it maybe could have been for Invicta, but he could have very easily in that situation, knowing there's that kind of spectre kind of like lurking over his shoulder a little bit, so that crumples some goalies, or they go, right, you're going to be in and out my net. You want to come and take my net? You come take my net. And goalies all love each other, and they all want to succeed, and they all want each other to do well. But fair play to Owen for really just kind of, I mean, you can't argue with the fact that there are only in South 1 there are only 3 trophies, of which he's the netminder that's won one. So fair play to him for that. And shout out Harvey Bryden as well. I know he didn't actually appear in that many games this year, but there's been 3 goalies in Invicta, so he got a medal too.
Yeah, I have got Owen Ryder written down because you said his numbers, I think, are actually quite contradictory to his performance. I think the goals he's conceded, you wouldn't expect many netminders to be able to do anything about. But it's the performances that he's been putting off, particularly in, the final sort of series against Chelmsford, the cup final, and then the playoffs. He was doing them things.
Lies, damn lies, and statistics. Everybody, that's the lesson here.
But now another fantastic year for Invicta. I expect them again to be up there and competitive next year. But they will be doing it without Yuri Hushka. I personally feel it was harsh. Although I was there, I didn't actually see what happened, so I can't comment on what actually happened. I just saw the aftermath. But having spoken to Joe and Chris who were commentating, they sort of have seen video. Yeah, I think it was harsh. It's clearly a frustration rather than a permanent, like a purposeful attempt to injure someone.
I think there is a real issue, and this is where the real issue with the tariff system with the IHA discipline really, really comes out, is that there is no there is no leeway for intent. And that's actually a real problem here. And it's one of the flip side of it is this is one of the problems where the Elite League Department of Player Safety really, really struggles, because the principle of how Elite League DOPS works is actually brilliant, because it mirrors a lot of what other European leagues do. But but what the Elite League's really, really guilty of sometimes is just massively, massively undercutting the idea of it, like, oh, it's an elbow to the head, it's one game. Well, you can really clearly see there that right at the last minute, he's stuck his elbow out and caught the guy in the head. It's not an accident. He's elbowed a guy in the head, and you've not taken intent into account here. In the complete opposite way to what the EIHA system does, which just doesn't even look at intent at all. And like, I think the other thing here is, and some people might think, oh, they're just trying to sort of excuse this, but like, Pushka should definitely get a ban for this. Like, his stick is his responsibility, and however frustrated he is, his stick, like, throwing out of your hands, fair enough, you probably would have got a misconduct off the ref anyway, because, like, you're just being an idiot. But if your stick leaves the ice, clears the board, and catches someone in their head, like, mate, you definitely need to be sitting down for at least, like, 20 games for this.
Yeah.
But a 2-season ban is massively disproportionate, especially when I think of Derek Campbell in the Elite League being banned for 47, I think it was 47 games, because he fought a guy off the ice, he fought another player off the ice in the crowd at Hull, right? Where is the proportionate nature of them banning a guy for 2 seasons there? And the frustrating bit about it is that actually, to the IHA's credit, the statement announcing why they'd made their decision was actually much better than some of their ones have been across this year, having moaned at them quite a bit to do more of it. But yeah, it just kind of feels like they've handcuffed themselves to a setting here where actually they just need to kind of just take a bit more of a nuanced look at this, and they've got the ability to do so. It's not like Invicta were playing the next day because they lost.
Yeah.
And it's not like anybody's going to be playing until September because the season's done. So launching out and saying it's a 2-season ban, when also you think of that some of those Blackburn players were banned off the back of their ruckus they had in Nottingham, and a couple of those guys were meant to be banned for 2 years. Well, those got chopped down pretty sharpish. So obviously Invicta, and actually again credit to the Dynamos for doing this, because their statements dealing with this have been really, really good. And
Yeah, their statements have been good.
Elite League teams how to do their PR. But the thing I'm really like I say, I venture this gets dropped down, and it should be dropped down. He 100% should not be starting next year. If he wanted to start next year, he really should be sitting at least like 15, 20 games for this. He's injured a kid. Like, he's thrown his stick over the boards in frustration and hurt a child. Like, you definitely need to sit on the naughty step here. But 2 seasons is just, it's just balmy. There's no need for it at all.
No. So, and I'd heard that he possibly was retiring that weekend, and that's why they've gone so harsh, because he had no intent of coming back anyway. So they've made an example. But I mean, the amount of time that guy spends on the ice for Invicta, I can't see him wanting to retire. He was playing nearly 45 minutes a game.
I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Like, the body gets a little bit older each year, gets a little bit. It can still be fun, but each year kind of gets a little bit more. Everything sometimes can get a little bit more sore. It is really sad though, because if that was the last hurrah, you think of all those Solent guys who signed off at the end of that, the end of that final game. You think of Tommy Annette signing off at the end of that game as well, and like Jure Hushka has been a very, very good servant to British hockey. It should be said. Yes. And actually, he deserves the ability to kind of have a goodbye. He has sort of sabotaged himself slightly. So hopefully some common sense kind of reigns in here, and they bring the suspension down, even if it's just a case of you stick him out for a shift at the end of the game to let him just say farewell and do it that way. But yeah, not the way you want to see a guy potentially ending his career.
No, well, I mean, after I would imagine he thought he'd put Invicta into the playoff final this year, scoring the third goal with a minute and 40 seconds to go, and then to see what happened after, which mirrored virtually the Chelmsford Bristol semi-final from the previous year. Discussed with Joe Scutts that perhaps that second semi-final is cursed in some way.
Yeah, yes,
but
it does feel it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was quite incredible to witness but you could actually see it coming. As soon as that third goal went in, Alex Murray called his timeout, and Paul Chico Cole put 6 forwards out there. It was you could see it coming. So it was astonishing stuff. But yeah, a great season for Invicta with the cup, making the playoff semi-finals as well, and finishing 4th in the league. I think they'll be happy over the total with their season, and look forward to the next one. So up into 3rd then, again on 29 points, 14 wins, 13 losses and 1 overtime loss, is the Slough Jets, as you rightly said earlier, one of only 2 teams not to top 100 goals in this season. Their top point scorers were joint, from what I found, of Lewis English and Jacob White-Say, but with only 19 each. But there's an incredible spread across the roster of people getting points. Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. I'm just skipping my way down. Even Brett Shepherd got a couple of points.
The
only keeper to do so, unfortunately, by the look of it. So no Ron Hextall award for most points by a goalie for him this year. But I tell you what, and it's one of those things that I got into a little bit of a habit of doing was watching Slough Jets highlights, because the Jets put together like a relatively decent highlights package anyway.
Yes, they do.
The Jets look fun. Like, it's a bunch of kids running around. And sometimes that works. Sometimes that's not good hockey, because it's like puppy dogs, just like, it's like kids playing football in the playground in year 3.
Following the ball.
Yeah. But actually, they've got, I think probably the criticism of them this year, from having spoken to people who've watched the league a bit more, was they're a little bit overly physical at times. And they kind of sort of lost their tempers a little bit when they didn't necessarily need to. But the stuff I've watched, and obviously the highlights are 100% edited to make them look good. But you know what? They look good. They look like a really fun team to watch.
So they should be. If you're editing your own highlights together, you want to make it look good.
Yeah. Let's make us look terrible. We've lost 25-0. certainly one of the names I will a couple of names that I'll mention on here because I'm going to cheat. Roman Cathcart and Ollie Hemmings-Mayo, who have split time between the Jets and the Bison this year. These two have been fun. Cathcart in particular has been one of my favorite things to watch this year because as Hemmings-Mayo got more shifts in Basingstoke because Ollie's got quite a natural scoring touch and he got opportunities when guys were injured and guys were hurt to kind of go out and play in a you're more of a goal scorer, Ollie. Go out and try and score a goal. And then as soon as Roman Cathcart would touch the ice, it's like, right. Someone's getting run. And it was just and seeing somebody, and there were times this year where the Bison were not very good at all. So to see two 16-year-olds charging around the ice with not a care in the world was really, really good fun. So to be able to watch them do it on the highlights, and if they're back in Slough next year, I 100% want to make a point of going and watching the Jets next year because the ability for Roman and Ollie to be much more impactful at that level is going to be quite high. So I want to see what those two lads are able to do where they are second line minutes rather than sort of like once in a blue moon on the ice. So that would be a lot of fun. And also have to mention Connor Redmond because he's the nephew of a legend. So
Well, I had Jacob Whitesay actually also in my All-Star team of the year. I think he's a fantastic young player who's just been away with the GB18s in Serbia. I think he was an assistant captain actually out there as well, or if not the captain.
I believe he was captain, and the Moore brothers as well. I know Sebastian spent much more time with Slough, but Christian did some really, really good things as well with Bristol. This year. I know there was reportedly some very serious discussions about trying to get Christian to go join the Pitbulls full time that never quite came off. But you think as well, guys like Luke Smittle. I mean, talk about coming from pedigree. Like
absolutely,
that kid looks like he'll be very, very good in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I mean, what Lucas has managed to do down there is put a team together of, obviously, as real young, energetic players. But they do play with structure. They've got systems that they do stick to, and it has been their physicality that's been their downfall recently. In some of their defeats for the season, because they've tried to be physical with teams that are just better at it, and then they've ended up losing their rag.
Yeah.
Particularly with Chelmsford, actually, over the course of the season, I think they beat us once from 4, but the other 3 times when we beat them relatively comfortably. I think Ty Cathcart got his nose smashed all over his face by Grant Bartlett in at least one game in Slough. I think the game in Chelmsford, they waited, I think it was 12 seconds from the start of the game before they went into it again. So, yeah, definitely what was their downfall. But if they want to play like that, I think a lot of teams will welcome that, but they just need to be better at keeping their heads with it.
Controlled aggression is a very, very big thing. I think, but the other thing as well is that particularly if Slough keep this group together, or at least a good core of the group together, they become a much more interesting prospect if they are going to be that physical. Because even if you think of a team like Streatham, who were much more better behaved this year at times, and I think it's because nobody wanted to get themselves suspended too quickly. Hi, Ryan. But even like Brandon Miles hasn't fought as much this year. Ryan Watt didn't fight as much this year.
I have a theory on why Brandon Miles has not fought that much this year.
To be fair, I venture a lot of them will have been told by Ben Paynter to be on their best behaviour because nobody wanted to jeopardise that game against Solway. But
I think he's had new teeth.
Oh, you reckon that's it? He's trying to protect the important dental wear. Well, he should do what Ross Cowley does and wear a cage then. But the thing with Slough is that actually, if you like you say that they're the young pups learning. Like if you're going to go and try and have a fight with one of the Bartlett boys, like it's not a loss if you learn, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And actually learning how you're getting some of those getting some of those bits of frustration out of their system. And learning how to be more controlled with it, and kind of a bit like Tampa Bay did the other night to the Leafs. If you're gonna have a scrap, have a strategic scrap, and take out some of those guys who are gonna cause you a bit of damage. Because you know, like a couple of like with all the will in the world, Ty Cathcart, Grant Bartlett. One of these guys is of a much higher value to his team than the other is there, and so it's not the worst thing in the world, albeit. Having a scrap with either Bartlett boys probably not high on your list of smart things to do.
No,
So I
even
watched
with
was
my
like Ralph
background,
Sennis for Julian Smith. It's like, no, what are you
no,
doing?
even with my background in boxing, I don't think I'd fancy a go at either one of those boys.
The only other thing I mentioned was Slough.
Yeah,
And is but having looked at it, both Brett Shepherd and Brett Massey, both over 90 save percentage, and both under 3 GAA. It's pretty good.
yeah.
Pretty solid foundation to build on from the back if you can work it out.
I think in most of their games this season, they were clinical front and back. Like you say, they didn't score many goals, but they didn't concede many either. The wins they got were tight. They got a couple of shutouts as well. I think Brett Shepherd got himself a couple of shutouts. So that was a good season from Slough. And I think, as you said, if you've got Streatham are still up there with that team, then players, as you said, not as many penalty points this year, but certainly still just bullying teams. In the fairest way possible. But if Slough progressing, Invicta progressing, we're going to move on to Chelmsford now coming back next year. It's just going to make it more competitive.
Yeah, it's going to make it. And like I say, if you do potentially have a team step up from South 2 into that mix as well, not only do you have like a really, really highly competitive division, but then some new blood into it as well. And those people who maybe were sitting on the fence a little bit, not seen this team play before. Let's maybe go have a look. What was that? Oh, that game. I remember we played them. Well, I was at that game. We played them last year, and that was pretty decent. It should be, and it starts to build and build. And like South One has its place within the structure, right? It's not meant to be the top league. But what South One can do, if it can develop a core of teams, and obviously someone has to finish first and someone has to finish last. That's sport, right? But if you can have a league of 8 teams, and theoretically you can have a night where, if we're honest with ourselves, this season, teams 1 to 6 probably had a puncher's chance of beating the other team, right?
Yeah.
And with all due respect to Oxford and to MK, there was nights where you could put either of those two teams on the ice, and you think they're not winning them, right? Even by an outlier's worth of margins. But Oxford, if they can, Oxford can get better, and they've had an okay year, and they can develop, and they'll come on, and maybe something magic happens at Milton Keynes, and they stay and they get better. But if you can get to a point where any team can beat any other on a given night, which was, for me, the strength of the national division this year, was I don't think there was a more competitive league in British ice hockey than the national division.
No, I can agree.
If South One can get to that point, then I think it really, really works, because South One should be a real, without wanting to hang official labels on it, South One has the real opportunity to be a very, very good development league. You can have those older guys who don't want to commit as much come down and teach the youngsters, and you can have your 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds just running the show. And then when they're ready to move on, they can move on. And if they don't want to move on, they can stay and do it that way. But this league's got so much potential in it. It's fascinating to see how the teams are going to progress on from here.
Yeah. So we'll move to 5th place then, and to the Chelmsford Chieftains. Again, 29 points.
Never heard of them.
One of ice hockey's staples, UK ice hockey staple teams, Chelmsford Cheiftains, 29 points, 12 wins, 11 defeats, 5 overtime losses, which was the reason they finished 5th for me out of that.
I was going to say, that feels a lot. That feels like a lot.
we won in overtime once all season, and I think that was at Oxford in, I think it was January, I believe. But yeah, the 5 overtime defeats were, obviously you get the 1 point from that, but if you take 5 extra points,
and
put that on there, it changes things quite drastically. But yeah, top point scorer was Grant Bartlett. 105 points between the Bartlett brothers in an up and down season is quite some going, including a game at Milton Keynes, which I discussed with Joe Scutts. The two of them scored 18 points between them in one game.
Not that they're padding the stats here.
No.
One of the really telling things here, and if folks want to look through NIHL stats here, one of the big things I think is a really, really telling stat here for Chelmsford this year. Aside from the fact that they do not have the spread of points around that some of the other teams have here, they averaged 37 shots taken a game and averaged nearly 49 shots against a game. that does not make for a good way of trying to play your hockey games. And I appreciate if you've got one of the best net mining prospects in the country in net, you probably feel very, very confident. And shot counts do not always tell the story. But where your shot count balance on average is 12, facing 12 more shots than you take, that is something that your new head coach at the Riverside is going to need to address. And knowing Cliff, he's going to address it.
Yeah. Yeah, if I had to sort of look back now and look at a lot of the goals we conceded, a lot of them were on the breakaway. We conceded too many shorthanded goals this year. And we'd get caught with maybe 3, 4 3 in the offensive zone, 1 in the neutral, 1 in the D, and we'd get broke on 3-on-2, sometimes 2-on-1, sometimes 3-on-1. And particularly in Victor, we played quite a lot. We're very adept at coming forward with more than one forward and moving the puck quickly.
Well, I think, like I say, you look at some of these numbers here, and you just look purely at your goal scorers. The Bartletts score silly amounts of goals because that's what they do. And you look at your next load of top point scorers. James Pentecost was your third highest point scorer, only scored 7 goals. Ollie Baldock scored 14 goals, so that puts him 12 behind Cam Bartlett. TJ Fillery got 10. And after that, everybody else is in single digits worth of goals. 3 for Matt Turner, 4 from Callum Burnett, 2 for Dan Hitchings, 3 for George Gell. Ethan Reed, who I know is very, very highly thought of on the back end, 7 points from 18 is not a bad return for a D man. But if you're wanting guys to, the big issue here for Chelmsford this year has really just been you're almost a little bit of a one-line team. And to be fair, what a line! Like if you're gonna have two brothers play together and score just like a metric buttload of points, then knock yourselves out. But you've got to then be able to shut up shop at the back, and Chelmsford haven't done it.
No, and I think it coincided with Neil Lydiard leaving. Was when we started to look a bit shaky at the back. Yeah,
turned up and instantly became our best defenseman in Basingstoke.
Yeah, he couldn't turn that down when it was offered, so no one blamed him for taking it. But it's his experience and what the lads would tell me about Lids, that he loved taking pucks, didn't care where or how hard.
Yeah. He's great because I was very fortunate enough to actually be sat next to Neil Lydiard at the Bison end of season awards dinner last Friday night, and his quip to me was it was just too slow to get out of the way, and to which my response was no, you lie. You're very actively getting in the way now, Lids, and you have done for quite a while, but and he wants to keep going, so where we see him play next year I don't know, but it looks like we'll get at least another, he's had his Ric Flair moment and retired and then played in South One and then come back to the national division anyway. But yeah, I think like I say there's a real issue here, I think, for and like Callum Burnett and Dan Hitchens getting 10 points each off the back end. It's not bad. 28 game season, 10 points apiece. That's good.
Callum Burnett missed a good portion of the season as well with injury.
But I'm a really big believer in I like my defenders to defend. It's a bit of a cheap example, but Ben O'Connor is a defenseman, and one thing Ben O'Connor's really, really good at is putting up points from the back end. I much prefer Ben O'Connor to score 10 less points a season but give up less goals.
Yeah.
Having watched Ben O'Connor for quite a while now, but yeah, I think obviously the net minding core, and sorry to Sonny Phillips in all this because he was kind of the odd man out in that dance, but both Petr Cech and Luka Tasandri finished with over 90% saves. That's great, but Luka's goals against is over 4. Which to have that save percentage and that goals against tells you that somebody needs to put something in front of that young man.
Yeah, they're taking too many shots.
Yes. What's he faced there? He's faced 736 shots in 27 games. So that is a lot.
That is a lot.
That is a lot. And Luka, aside from that, as we've seen, as regular listeners to this show will know, very polite young man. He's very, very good at what he does. Get him some D, Cliff, please.
Yes.
Help the kid.
I say we're not 100% sure whether he's actually coming back. I know he's got university options possibly for next year. So it's something I've not discussed with him on the podcast because he just doesn't know. So it's yeah, something we're looking forward to. Like you said, he's such a good young lad. He won our awards this year. He won the Players Player, and he won the MVP for the season. So he's well aware of how highly he's thought of in Chelmsford, by his peers as well as the fans. And yeah, we would love to see him back. As for our other netminder, he wasn't there at the presentation awards. We don't know if that is the last we're going to see of him or not. His new pad set may suggest he's coming back.
I mean, with all due respect to Petr Cech, given his week work, given what he does during the week, he's kind of excused from not being from not turning up to everything as much as he possibly could.
Well, he was in Belfast in the week, so I don't know.
He was in Belfast during the week, and fair play to him for joining in with that one. The very amusing photograph of him next to Giants' perennial third netminder Andrew Dicko Dixon was quite a sight, because obviously Petr is very, very highly thought of in a variety of circles, but there are fewer popular men in Belfast ice hockey than Andrew Dixon. So it was just brought a wry smile to my face of who's the bigger legend in Belfast in that photograph, given the amount of Arsenal and Chelsea fans that reside in the province.
Yes, I would imagine so. Yeah. But yeah, I think Cech had a good season when he played. It became unfortunate with obviously the imports on the ice rule, which is changing for next season. Obviously, the import goalies is coming in, but we couldn't see as much of Sasha Maltsev as we would have liked. A young lad that we've had from Ukraine who's now living and learning over here, and will be with the Cheiftains for long term, hopefully. Because towards the end of the season, where we were having suspension issues at the Cheiftains, Cam Bartlett. Like I said, we don't know what's happening with the Bartletts yet, but I can't imagine Cam Bartlett wants to go out on a 7-game ban.
No, probably not.
So the fact that we were down them attackers meant that Maltsev had to play, getting Lucas Sardry in nets and Cech riding the pine. But in 4 games, I think it was at the end of the season, Sasha Maltsev went from 4th, 3rd line every now and again to 1st line. Just incredible hands. His dad sends me videos of him ruining people in the Ukrainian under-18s league at 13.
Yeah, I mean because the rules that have kind of stuff that's kind of been announced, and I know Joe obviously mentioned about it, and there's been some changes that are very national division focused and some that are kind of for everybody. The propensity for a young lad like Maltsev to kind of come on as a result. Because he's an import in the loosest of possible senses, because like being an import in a hockey league should be as a result of choice, not because somebody decided to invade your country.
Yes, absolutely.
But he's got an opportunity now. Like if they're fully gonna have these import rules across the entire NIHL structure, then more power to the lad for taking that opportunity. Let's see what he can do. And as you say, Chelmsford based now. There's no reason not to give him the time if he wants to hang around and he wants to if he wants to kind of really put himself in the shop window here. I mean, it's worked for Vlads Volkanovs, who's now on the. If you think of Vlads Volkanovs a couple of years ago, who went from coming over here and went from uni hockey to Div 2 to Div 1 to national year after year after year. Next year will be the first year he's stuck with the team in Britain for more than a year.
Wow.
Because and Volkanovs is a very, very talented young man. And I'm not saying Cheiftains fans that we want Maltsev to immediately disappear from Essex. However, if he's got the ability and he can really show up next year, and if we're going to welcome folk into our country and we're going to make spots for imports and we're going to make spots for people who have who necessitate them to be in Britain for for reasons of their house being flatter than an A4 sheet of paper, then let's get him in. Let's get him playing. I think is probably the best way to describe.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's I'd say we're all looking forward to what Lewis Clifford's going to do for next year. Obviously, young players coming in. He did mention, I spoke with him as well in Milton Keynes about using the sort of extensive academy setup that we've got at Chelmsford. The academy at Chelmsford is absolutely flying. So that can only be a good thing for Lewis to have in his back pocket. He did mention to me he wants to play hard and fast, so the lads should be in the gym over the summer.
Yep, and that's very much that was very much Cliff's MO when he coached the Lightning as well. Always a physical side. I mean, it was built out of the core that MK had. That's obviously starting to whittle away now. Like Lee Jameson's obviously retired now, which is a very surreal thought for someone who's been I feel very old now as a result. But some of those guys that he was around and he sort of played with, your Grant McPhersons, your Ross Greens, your Lee Jamesons. Like, if that, when he says that, he means that. Be prepared for a Chieftain style that might have been a little bit hard, a little bit more rougher around the edges than last year.
Yeah, so we don't know really who will be coming back from the current roster. We know most of the fans would like most of them to come back, because I think Mark Saunders put together a pretty good roster at the start of the year. It took to even after he was let go for it to click, and now it seems to have finally started to click.
Yeah, although, like I say, I think that the big issue there that is it clearly there's some defensive inequities there that need addressing for Chelmsford, and I think the problem that you guys are going to have, if only they're a team that stopped playing with a bunch of young defensemen that you could go at and ask as to whether they fancy playing South One for a year, but.
I think we're going to be a little bit down the pecking order of getting those gentlemen.
You never know unless you ask. And also the other thing as well is that, rumours about Alex White aside, because let's just go straight towards that hole.
Probably the worst kept secret, isn't it?
Yeah. But the other thing as well is that people are going to want to play for Cliff. Like, he's not a bad coach. Like him, I was there at the playoff final in 2022 when he was coaching the Lightning, and he was just getting absolutely rinsed because he had Tim Wallace sat at the end of the bench, and everybody was just like, we all know where this is going next year. Enjoy your last game in charge, kind of thing. But he's not a bad coach. He's got some savvy tactical ideas. He's got a style, and if he can get the guys to buy into it, it's going to be effective, especially in a league like South One, where your best team have played a very, very solid structural game for quite some time. And admittedly, for Streatham, that was their downfall, was because they were almost too structured and didn't think creatively enough against Solway to beat them. But if you think about what Streatham have done in this league and how they've done it, and you go back to what Joe Scott said about doing the same thing very effectively with slight tweaks and variations. Well, if Chelmsford Ben Painter's still a very, very new coach. Chelmsford have now got arguably the most experienced coach in the division behind, like, Simon Anderson's been doing it for quite a while. But Cliff has coached at a higher level than Simon has.
Yeah.
So to be able to add that into the Chieftains as an organisation is massive. If Cliff gets buy-in, do not be surprised to see Chelmsford to be finishing above 5th place. I'm not going to say they're going to challenge Streatham, because I spoke to Ben Painter after that National One final, which I was fortunate enough to be able to commentate on. And I meant what I said. I've said it on social media a bit. He was very upset and he was not a happy boy. But behind those eyes, the gears were turning in Ben Painter's head. That man has a plan, and they are going to be laser focused, especially where you think about the huge cock up as an organisation they made, where they burned off the cup by mistake, because, counting is not a thing apparently.
No.
But like, Chelmsford have got, like you said, they've got a really good academy set up behind them. They've got the ability for a bit of some fresh ideas coming in, where last season, as I think as Chieftains fans will admit, Mark put together a good side. The pieces didn't fit the picture of the jigsaw a little bit, and it picked up a little bit at the end, which is great. But there's a real chance here for Chelmsford. It doesn't feel like they're hitting the reset button like Invicta did. Like Invicta hit the reset button and had to go down to come up. Chelmsford feel like they're kind of on a point here where they're hitting it's not so much hitting the reset button. You're just turning the tape over and then pressing play and then pushing on to the next bit of it. Admittedly, if you lose the Bartlett boys, who knows? It might just all go completely pop.
That's a lot of points to try and replace, isn't it? So.
Yeah, but I think Chelmsford fans should be. It's a phrase, cautious optimism, I think, is probably what I'd say. See your roster first. Don't get ahead of yourselves. But there's some real ability there. And even if you do lose guys, like, if Luca does, I don't know, Luca goes to university in Sheffield, for example, like, all right, that'll scupper you a bit. but there'll be a keeper somewhere who wants to play for Cliff.
Yeah.
And there'll be defensemen who want to play for him, and there'll be guys wanting an opportunity, and new coach, new place. They'll come. Like, there'll be guys who will stay, of course. But like I say, if I'm a Chieftains fan, I've got a little rubbing my hands together a little bit. I'd be excited for this new season if I was a Chelmsford fan. It's all well and good being a Streatham fan. Only way is down when you've won everything 1,000 times.
Yeah, cautious optimism, I think, is definitely the line that we're going for. So that's it. We've wrapped up then Division 1. I've just got a few things to ask about what you normally do, Anthony. You've been incredibly gracious giving me a lot of shout-outs on your streams recently. Because I do join in, watch and comment. So.
Yeah, well, it's collaboration, not competition. I've been doing this lark now for 12 years, and
that was going to be my next point. Congratulations, 12 years of banners on the wall.
Thank you. I'm an idiot. For people who aren't familiar, because I appreciate I'm not what I do is not as known kind of in Chelmsford. Banners on the Wall was all born out of the fact that I started doing the match night updates for the Bison, because I used to just like do it on my own Twitter, and it was just I was a much younger man than I am now, and I was just sarcastic to the point of wanting to punch myself in the face at times. But when the club asked me to do stuff for them, I was like, I need an outlet. And I've written my entire life, like the whole writing about the hockey is the newer aspect of this. I've written since I was a small child, and I'm 38, nearly 39. So writing is the passion, and hockey is the prism that I do that through. Yeah. So the ability to have the opportunity to do some of the weird stuff that I've been able to do, including the one game I have DJ'd, which was a Chelmsford Chieftains game.
Oh,
should
really?
be said. If you dig back through the annals of Banners on the Wall, it's pre-pandemic. But the only game I've ever DJ'd was an NIHL 2 South game between the Basingstoke Buffalo and the Chelmsford Chieftains. Both Bartlett boys, I think, scored at least 3 goals each on that one. I think it finished 12-2 to Chelmsford. But I have managed to trip and fall and open my big mouth and gotten a lot of opportunities because I've been stupid enough to say, I'll have a go. And people seem to keep letting me have a go at things. I'm the literal definition of hard work and perseverance, sometimes over raw ability. Because the great thing about writing is nobody is a natural writer. You have to work at it. You have to write, and you have to write when it's awkward, and you have to write when you're ill, and you have to write when you don't feel like writing. And I've been really, really fortunate that people have given credence to what I say, and that I've not sort of been drummed out for being too outspoken because I'm very outspoken on certain issues, and I've made but the useful thing about the longevity aspect is that people have realized I don't say things for the sake of saying them. And a really good example is I don't like the Peterborough fans much. I don't like watching them play. It's not a style of hockey I enjoy. I dislike watching them. I don't find them very entertaining, and I watch hockey to be entertained. I've been really fortunate in the sense that after a while I've been able to have conversations with members of the Phantoms who realise that it's not I hate you all and everything is terrible. It's a stylistic difference of opinion, and it's fine. And the other thing as well was I was like, and it was January of 2022 when Will Weldon was announced, who's the captain of the Peterborough, and he was announced as having his testimonial. And like, I made a point of just sort of going, you know what, whatever you think of Peterborough, credit to the man for sticking it out for 10 years with one club when he could have quite easily gone on and done other things or not bothered or not phoned it in. And like, Will Weldon is a rat, but he's a good rat. And Will said to me, you've interviewed a bunch of people. Let's do it. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's actually do it. And the two of us just ran straight towards the elephant in the room, which is just like, I think he said something along the lines of like, I've had so much fun reading your reports after we've beaten Basingstoke. And I was like, yeah, and I hate watching you play still. And that's the best thing sometimes about British hockey is that actually we're not here to, like, the competition is the on ice bit. We're here to watch a game, and the game has a winner and a loser, and that's cool. And off the ice, actually 99% of people want the same thing, which is we want this sport to be as good as it can be, in as good a position as it can be, and to push on and do as many good things as possible, and for me that's whatever the level. I'm not fussed too much about and it's not to say like I'm not one of these people who thinks the Elite League is the worst, is like the horrible, the big bad lurking in the corner, right? The Elite League's the top level of British hockey. Can't sidestep that. Most money in it. The best standard of play. But I think the idea for me is that there is as much value in Nottingham versus Sheffield on Boxing Day in front of 8,000 people as there is in Lee Valley playing Solent Junior Devils in front of 25, because the sport is the sport, and the sport is fun. That's my big thing about this, and this is the thing that with my writing that I want to show people is that I try to treat everything as important as everything else, right? And because if you're doing something I can't do, you're putting the gear on, you're putting the skates on, and I don't care if the level that you play of it. It could be Canada, USA. I watched South Africa versus Luxembourg yesterday, and you know what? They all skate better than I do, every last one of them. And it's still of the same. It's still of the same value and still as fun to me. So 12 years on, the fact I can still maintain that, just like being able to watch and just like this is great, is huge for me.
Yeah. And I take it technology's probably had a big say in how you progressed it. Because you're obviously now doing with the What's Current stream.
Yeah. The What's Current was born out of, because there was a podcast for a while, and after my son was born, the amount of stuff I needed to do in terms of prep and editing was just becoming too much, and I was feeling overwhelmed by the project as a whole, and I felt that my writing was starting to suffer. And with all due respect to What's Current, if you had to make me choose between one or the other, I'm going straight back to writing every time, because that's what I think I'm better at. But What's Current was born out of wanting to be able to get an outlet to talk about everything else that was going on around what was happening in Basingstoke. And actually, and it's not to say I'm lazy and I don't want to edit, but I'm lazy and I don't want to edit. And actually, but as well, there was a gap. There's with all due respect to the many, many good podcasts that do it, whether it's A View from the Bridge, whether it's 3 on 3, whether it's Cat's Whiskers, whether it's all of these different things. The Elite League's oversaturated with the amount of stuff they're looking at the Elite League. There's sod all in the NIHL. Yeah. And I don't know why, because there's so much more NIHL. And obviously you're doing your bits, and there's the Wildcast in Swindon with Ben and Tom when they both remember to be in the same place at the same time to actually record it. Yeah. But What's Current was born out of I want to do something, but it needs to be this kind of quick and almost quick and easy, not disposable, but pick up, put down. And I wanted to be able to do something like that along with all these sort of longer form pieces stuff that I was doing. And the technology, Twitter Live was a thing for a while, and it's really good. And then Twitter Live decided, even before Elon Musk took over Twitter, started becoming a dumpster fire.
Wasn't it Periscope or something? Was that?
It was Periscope.
Twitter Live,
and now everything is on YouTube for What's Current, and I should have made that change sooner. And it looks much better now, I think. And I have Joe Chatterton who did my graphics for me, which look really, really nice. I'm still learning how to use OBS. I have no idea how some bits of it work. He just told me what to do, and I press buttons, and it seems to do the thing. So it works. But the technology's come on leaps and bounds. But ultimately, at the end of the day, and probably a little bit after you and I finish talking, I'm probably going to sit down and probably do some writing in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's the technology with me. I mean, I'm crap with technology. It's never been a thing that I've been particularly good at. I've picked this up relatively quickly, actually, with regards to the editing and a lot of the videos and stuff that I put together. But it's where it's kind of snowballed so quickly, because like you say, there was nothing really especially for NIHL 1 South. Obviously, when I was looking to start doing this, I found yourself, I found 4,000 Counting, and 3 on 3 as well, but they're obviously Elite League. I think it's Pucking Mad is a new one, actually. I think that's covering a little bit down here. But I have now kind of grown slight ambitions for it to grow it slightly further, to possibly some sort of highlights package, a sort of NIHL match of the day.
Well, the thing I'd say is Drop the Puck up north, who were the guys who Drop the Puck TV, who
they do the stream up north, don't they?
They do the stuff in Widnes, but they also every so often will do, and they're all up there. If you search on YouTube, and this is the other thing I'd say to folks down here in the south, and all of you lovely people over in Chelmsford. Chelmsford's great, but there's a ton of stuff out there. Go find everything. You can't watch it all at the same time, obviously, but like drop the puck. If you say to yourself, I wonder what One North is like. Drop the puck. Do a really, really good 90 minutes worth of patching together highlights from bits and pieces. And this is just what's been the great journey for me recently, is just coming down a bit more into more of the NIHL 1 and 2, and just looking at stuff that I just never would have seen before, like Nottingham Lions and the and Telford Tigers 2, and it'd be really nice, Bradford Bulldogs. Please, somebody stick a camera in Bradford, because I'd love to be able to watch Bradford more than once a year. And I can't imagine what sort of stuff is the new Lee Valley gonna have when that opens, because if they've not put an ISDN line into there, I'm gonna kick someone.
I can't imagine. I mean, have you seen the building?
Yes, it looks superb
from the outside. It looks phenomenal.
Yeah, it's. I'm gonna wait and see in terms of where I'm going next year. Because of course, with the Bison pausing for a year, there's the question I keep getting asked every 5 minutes is, what are you doing next year? And the answer is, I don't really know, because it's April. But the general thing for me at the moment, I think, is I'll probably be bouncing. I'll see where Bison players sign and try and kind of do the rounds there, and then I'll try branching out into a few weird places that I've not been. So, but the amount of tech at the moment that you're able to do stuff with is crazy. The fact that that if you wanted to, you could watch Widnes Wild versus the Solihull Barons in North 1. That you can do that, and I'm waiting to see more clubs do it in South 1.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, it feels like South 1 feels like there is a South 1 as a level has always been really, really good, but the only team that was properly streaming was MK, which was really weird. But of course, they've got the kits sat in the box.
Got all the kits sat there, yeah. And Tim, I can't remember Tim's last name, but Tim, who was filming for the South 1 playoffs, just does an incredible job with the camera up on the gantry, the GoPros at either end. It does an absolutely incredible job. As far as I'm aware, every team has to video their game, because if there's a disciplinary issue, they have to supply video, or they get quite a hefty fine.
Oxford got fined for it this year, of course.
Yeah.
You have to record it, but the regulations and the difference between recording for those purposes, you need to have one camera that covers the entire ice. You can literally for that, you can just plonk a camera somewhere, and as long as it covers the entire ice, you're set.
Yeah, I think at Chelmsford we do have one of those ones that kind of remote follows.
Yes. And that's all Nottingham use. That's all the Nottingham Lions use. If you ever watch a Nottingham Lions stream, it's that camera, and they just feed it through and hook it up to YouTube and stick. I mean, Chris Gadsby commentates for the BBC. He's commentated on a Women's Cup final yesterday for the BBC. So they are quite fortunate in the fact that they're able to put a high quality commentator into it, rather than the national Division 1 national final, which got me. Admittedly, George Perrott,
really good job you did.
Thank you. George Perrott, who was calling the play-by-play on that, was superb. Watching his process before the game, how he sorted himself out before, was fascinating. Was really, really good. But there's so much stuff out there, and there's so much potential for just what this sport could be. I've said it before. British hockey is haunted by its potential, and that's at every level. That's not just about the national team. Although I feel it feels sometimes like people focus too much on that, but there's good in all of it. It's good in all of it. If I can have fun watching Philippines versus Mongolia from the Division 4 World Championships in Ulaanbaatar, then we can find a way to get something out of Chelmsford versus Oxford on a Sunday night. I'm pretty certain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know the club have said they're not overly keen on doing live streaming, because they want to get as many people in the barn as they can, but some highlight packages would be nice.
Myth. This is a myth. It is a proven myth that doesn't mean anything. Your live streams will not affect your live gate. What you will get is a secondary revenue stream. Who owns the Cheiftains? because it's the Bartlett's dad, isn't it?
Derek Bartlett. Yeah.
So Derek, hi Derek, Anthony here. It has been massively disproven that live streams will affect your live gate, because your live gate will be for people from Chelmsford, and people from Chelmsford are not going to choose watching a tiny black disc on a screen over watching it live. Your live streams are for your away fans, and if I was having to travel from Oxford to Chelmsford, I might think twice. So I can either get a tenner if they don't turn up in my barn, or 15, or nothing at all. £10 is better than no pounds. Knock yourself out.
Well said. To everybody in the league.
PW, if you want to have the argument with me, and I'll quite happily sit down in the pub with you and do it.
Excellent. Well, mate, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been a real pleasure to chat to you. Obviously, go through the league and talk a little bit about what you do with BOTW.
Not a problem at all. Always happy to poke my head above the parapet. So, made a career. I'm an articulate loudmouth, is what I've told people for a very, very long time. So I have no intentions of stopping.
Absolutely. I don't think I've got a title like that yet.
It's coming. Don't worry.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm waiting for the bad reviews first. The good ones have been lovely. The stuff the Cheiftains fans and other people in the league have messaged me. Just the nicest things. I'm really looking forward to some hate. So we'll sign that off there. Thank you very much indeed.
No worries, mate. Not at all. Not a problem at all.
A huge thank you to Anthony Russel from Banners on the Wall for joining me. If you've not caught up with Banners on the Wall, obviously you're going to have to wait till next season now. But it is absolutely brilliant. Wednesday nights, 8 o'clock, live on YouTube. Anthony runs through all of the National League. The National 1, North, South. There's 2, North and South. There's a live chat on there as well, so you can get involved. He's very, very interactive, and he always responds to everything that's on there. So it's absolutely brilliant for, just our level of hockey to have that much exposure. Right then, coming next, I'm so excited about this. Unfortunately, we've not done this via video, so it won't be on YouTube, but we've done it over the phone. I have finally nailed down Sonny Phillips. Cheiftain, Rainder, netminder extraordinaire, and without doubt one of the most popular players to ever grace the ice at the Riverside. Sonny Phillips, thank you for joining me. How's things?
Thanks for having me. It's been a long time coming, this chat, I think.
It has. Obviously, your change of club in mid-season made it slightly difficult. When we started, you were always one of the guests I wanted to get on.
Yeah, to be fair, I've always wanted to come on. TJ done the first one, and since then we ain't stopped talking about it, really.
Yeah. He's had the most popular video, actually, but I've had a little bit of technology trouble this week with the video, so we are actually just doing this over the phone.
I reckon TJ's family just keep hitting the view button just to have them views right up.
Yeah. Well, his mum gave me the grilling over the playoff weekend as well, so I do know they all enjoy it, which is lovely.
Oh, good.
So
shout out to Caroline.
Yeah, we got to love Caroline. Them 50-50 tickets don't sell themselves. So for the second half of your season, then you were a Raider, and congratulations, you made the playoff semi-finals and had quite a good game in the semi-finals yourself.
Yeah, I think for us it was a big achievement to get to the semi-final weekend. Obviously, we had Slough, which is a tough opponent, but the boys, we done it. We had a good away leg, and we just played solid the away leg, and then the home leg was, up and down like a roller coaster. But we scraped the win, which was good enough to get us to the weekend. But I think because we got to the weekend, it was a season well done, really.
Yeah, it was proper playoff hockey, that second leg against Slough, wasn't it? It was madness.
Yeah, we went 3-0 or 4-0 down in like 10 minutes, and everyone dropped their heads. But the team done well to come back. The players done well, the coach done well, so it was a good job to come back, really. I was proud of them.
Yeah, and then you took the lead against Cheiftains whilst you were up there. But then for us, it's hard because we don't necessarily have the skill and the depth, but hard work gets us through. Obviously, the likes of TJ Anderson is an unbelievable player, an unbelievable talent. But I think Cheiftains have just got
them 4 lines who can go out and score goals at any point, and unfortunately they got the better of us. But I mean, we done well just to get 1 goal in first. So yeah, we done well just to really.
Yeah, I think it still gave them a game. They had to work for the victory that they got, so that's certainly.
Yeah. I wished it was a bit closer, but I think after a few goals went in, we sort of started to drop our heads a bit, and but we kept it close. I mean, it weren't disastrous, but maybe on a good day we could have had them, but it weren't to be.
No. So, with your hockey career in general, spent quite a lot of it at Chelmsford. You've
yes,
but you're only 25. It seems like you've been around for years.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I think, I'm a bit older than I think I am, but I'm not retiring just yet. But it might be close.
I'm sure there's many people listening to this that would be glad to hear that. So, with your time at youth hockey, was there a bit of time at Slough in there as well?
Yeah, so me and my brother started. I don't know, we was like 6 or 7 at Romford. And then under 14s, we moved to Slough for 2 years. My older brother moved to Slough. We all sort of moved to Slough. But the problem with Slough is such a commute. We was going there 3-4 times a week, hour there, hour back on a good day. Sometimes 2 hours. But yeah, we had a really, really good time at Slough. I got a lot of the Stretton boys are at Slough. I really enjoyed that part, and then we moved back to Romford for a few years, and then when the rink closed, I moved to Chelmsford.
Yeah, and came right through the academy there.
So I played 18s, Warriors. We done really well at Warriors. Warriors was some of the best years of my hockey, I think. Had such a good time, and then started playing for Chiefs about 5-6 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, and I have had one of your net-minding partners on previously, Frankie Sabini.
Yeah, big old Frank.
Yeah, he said he'd come back to sort of just get some fitness and sort of be a backup to you whilst you were at the Cheiftains, because you became the first choice netminder at a really young age.
Well, yeah. To be fair, my first season was the last season for the Cheiftains in the league above, and then all the league restructured and we moved around, and we sort of moved down to the lower league. But I didn't really. I was happy with where I was at, and I didn't really want to move up or down. So I stayed at Chelmsford, and I really enjoyed it, to be fair.
Yeah. Who was your biggest inspiration at Chelmsford then that sort of played above you?
Ben Clements and Ewan King. Two great goalies for Chelmsford. I mean, they played for Chelmsford in the heyday, like some of the best seasons. I mean, there's a couple of seasons before I joined, they won the quadruple, every cup you could win. I mean, that was a big achievement. But some of the players like James Alien was there, the Bartletts were there, a lot of players, Breezy was there, a lot of players were there and won that quadruple. And then I come a few years later after that.
Yeah, that was a real period of success for Chelmsford then, wasn't it?
Yeah. But obviously, growing up, my brother played for Romford, and back then Romford-Chelmsford was a big game. I mean, they used to sell out. I remember going to Romford, being a massive crowd, great games, great atmosphere, going to Chelmsford and the same happening. So, I watched all of that happen, and then I sort of ended up playing for the Cheiftains, which is something that I always sort of wanted to do.
Yeah, and did it fantastically as well. I mean, we had a few sort of relatively successful years with odd trophy here and there. A good season before last, getting to the playoff final.
Yeah. I think we've always Chelmsford has always historically done well. We've always, again, sorry, I keep saying we. Chelmsford's always put together good teams, good competitive hockey teams, which is something that I always wanted to be a part of. So we've done well. We have ups and downs, just like every hockey team, because juniors come through and juniors leave and things happen. But I've enjoyed it.
Well, with juniors, a man who was your understudy last year and has stepped up this year since your departure. How good is Luca Tassadri?
Luca's fantastic. He'll be an unbelievable goalie. He's just got to keep pushing himself. Which sometimes sometimes I look back on my career, and for me, obviously, work is so important, and work sometimes gets in the way. I try not to let it get in as way as much as possible, but I think all Luca's got to do is keep training, keep pushing himself, keep going, and he'll keep going. He's an unbelievable goalie. He's got a great mindset, and he's just got to keep pushing himself, which I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
To be fair, and he deserves it. He's on the ice every day. He trains every day. He deserves it. I mean, I love him like a brother, so I'm proud of him.
there is quite a strange relationship really between goalies, isn't it? You're a very special breed of people.
Yeah, I mean, so I've always tried to get on as well as possible with the second goalie, and to be fair, I mean, Chelmsford, the majority of the time I've been there, there's always been two good goalies, so I've always tried to get on with the other goalies as much as possible. I mean, Luca's special, I think, just because of his personality, but there's definitely something strange about goalies in general.
Yeah, I think anyone who wants to willingly stand in front of a puck being hit at you at God knows how fast.
Yeah, I think for me, I was just because I obviously have two brothers, I was just the unlucky one that had to go in the net. They have to shoot on someone, otherwise it's boring. So I was the one who volunteered to go in the net in the garden, and that was all she wrote, and I loved it. To be fair, I still do love it.
Yeah,
but I still play.
Yeah, I think that's something actually that a lot of the fans do sort of relate to with you, is that your enjoyment of the sport is clear for everybody to see.
Yeah, I think the end of the day, no matter what the score is, you've got to enjoy it. And if you're not enjoying it, you shouldn't be there. And for me, passion is a big thing for me as well. And I think enjoyment and passion sort of go hand in hand. If you're enjoying it, you're going to be passionate about it. And I try to be as passionate as possible when I'm out there.
Absolutely. I mean, I've spoken with some of the other guys about the levels of commitment that are required, but your working schedule, and particularly around winter, does crank the pressure up on your hockey playing. How do you deal with that?
For me, again, like I said a minute ago, there's always been two good goalies at Chelmsford, so it's helped me in a way because I only have to play one out of every 2 games.
Mm.
So I could relax a bit and let the other goalie strive as well, because sometimes the more games you get, the better you get. The same, like, so I'm happy. I was happy for Luca to go in the net. I was happy for Ben to go in the net. I mean, like I said, I've always shared the net with people, but work is very important at Christmas. But I do still like to get in as many trainings as possible and as many games as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we won't go into too many sort of specifics and details in regarding your departure from Chelmsford, but that was at the crux of it, wasn't it?
I don't really know. I think for me, communication's the key part, and I don't really have much to say about it because it is what it is. I mean, it's opened new doors for me. I'm at Romford. I'm happy at Romford. I hope they're happy with me. But yeah, so I think that's the past. I don't really dwell on it much at all because hockey's hockey. Things happen. I would have loved to have stayed at Chelsea my whole career, but it weren't meant to be. So I think I found a new home at Romford, which I'm quite happy about, to be fair.
Yeah, and it's kind of actually broken that barrier down between the fans, especially some of the younger fans. I mean, you would have seen at the playoff finals, there was plenty of Cheiftain fans there that were actually just there to watch you.
Yeah, I mean, again, another thing, relationship with the fans has always been important to me because without the fans, the team is nothing.
Mm.
So I've always liked to speak to people, and I like to hear their stories, and I like to get to know everyone. The girls that come and see me, I mean, I'm chuffed that they make the effort to come and see me, really. But yeah, fans are so important to the game. Without fans, I mean, most teams wouldn't exist. No,
of course, yeah. It's not a sport that gets much sort of financial help from anywhere, so it's
yeah. I mean, it's a very. I mean, I've been lucky, so I've been able to play. But for a lot of people, it's outpriced.
Mm.
It's not like you can go grab a football from Sports Direct and go down to the local field.
Exactly, yeah.
That's for sure. But yeah, without fans, the sport is nothing, and that's why I've always tried to make a special relationship with everyone because, well, I suppose I just try to be a people person.
Yeah, you certainly are that, mate.
Yeah.
Certainly are that.
Yeah.
With regards to your kit, then your helmet is always sort of quite popular amongst people, sort of saying, but you can't really see exactly what it is from the ice. What is the story with your helmet?
At the moment, I've got on it. What have I got on it? Oh, I've got the Peaky Blinders. I think for the last 3 or 4 helmets, I've always had a film themed helmet. I had the Godfather on one, Cheiftains from The Legend on another. I've got the Peaky Blinders because I think it's one of the best series going.
Is that much to the dismay of your mate Frankie Sabini, I assume?
Yeah. Oh, Frank got a story about that.
Yeah, he told us when he was on.
Yeah, but I just think the filming of it, the characters, I think it's a fantastic series. And my new helmet, I'm gonna get Wolf of Wall Street on it.
Oh, that is a fantastic film. That's easily in my top 3.
I'm carrying on the film theme for that.
So, between me and you, are you having the Margot Robbie nude bit on there?
No, I don't think so. No, just the bit where he's throwing cash over the boat.
Yeah, excellent stuff.
So, yeah.
Have you ever played?
We'll see what's.
Oh, I'm sure we will see it at one point or another. Absolutely, yeah. So, have you ever played out on the ice as a player, or have you always played in goal?
Not really. I've pretty much always, well, maybe my first season back at Romford, but when you can hardly skate and hardly pass the puck. But I specifically remember like them again saying we need a goalie, and there was me volunteering saying, yeah, I'll go in the goal. But even back then, I mean, there was 2 of us, me and Dennis the Menace. So we shared the goal back then. I think I've always shared the goal my whole career. But yeah, I really love getting in the net and letting. The problem with being a goalie, I'm sure everyone knows, is you're either hero or zero. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like there's more zeros than heroes,
but it's also a sport. I've discussed though, it's unlike any other team sport where a goalie can win a game on their own in hockey.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, especially when a goalie's having a good game, and it's everyone knows how hard it is to score against certain goalies sometimes when they're standing on their head and it hits the post and it hits the crossbar, but you have to be good to be lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've win games.
Yeah, I've witnessed you do it myself with my own eyes. I've witnessed you win a game on your own. So it's, I know it's certainly possible. I've got some questions here from the listeners, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
some of them I'm going to sort of try and word a little better than they came through, because I don't want to really lead you down too many weird paths. Emily Palmer has asked that. I don't think this is going to be a sort of a controversial thought or anything like that, just your thought in general on Petr Cech as to, how he's sort of gone from being a football goalie to an ice hockey goalie. From your professional opinion, is he any good?
Well, to be fair, I don't really know him. I only met him once or twice. I'm sure he's a lovely person. I think for our league, he definitely fits in our league. Again, I think commitments get in the way of a lot of people, but that ain't just goalies. That's everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone has work duties. Everyone can't make certain trainings and certain games because what unfortunately for us, work is second. I'm sorry, hockey is second.
Yeah, it's got to
our
be
work pays the bills and it's that first. So, but unfortunately for goalies, you notice it a lot more because there's only 2 of you.
Yeah.
Whereas when there's 15 other players, you don't really notice if someone's missing or not there, and people can step up quite easily. But for a goalie, it's a big hole to fill.
Yeah.
But I mean, he played brilliantly for Guildford a few years ago. They won the cup with him, so I'm sure he's a good enough goalie. I haven't really watched much of him to say, but he's definitely a good enough goalie for our league.
Yeah. Lovely. I got a question from Cam Mercer. Asked, what's your favourite thing to do in the off season?
go on holiday.
Yeah.
Stuart Phillips will know that for sure. But yeah, to go on holiday and relax.
Excellent.
And my girlfriend would say take her out on a date or something.
Oh yeah. Well, if you're taking her on holiday, that's like one big date.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Got one here. I reckon this could be an interesting one. Danny Ingoldsby has said, "What was it like billeting with me in England under-13s?"
Yeah, I mean, we've got some stories about that. Quebec, whenever it was 2010, I think it was.
Oh, you guys went to Quebec then?
Yeah, we all went to Quebec. I mean, Vanya was there, my twin brother was there. We had a brilliant time in Quebec. Fantastic memories. I mean, my whole England career, I loved every minute of it. Just memories that you make for your lifetime, and things you look back on. And when you're out there, you don't really think about it. But now I'm a bit older, and I look back, I think of how many good times we had and what a laugh we had all together. Dan's a character. I mean, he's a character on the ice, you can tell now, but back then he was even more funny.
Has he calmed down a bit in his early 20s, has he?
Yeah, sort of. But I remember how funny he was back then. And when he's out on the ice, he's always saying something to me like, "Oh, why can't you let that one in?" And to be fair, I normally do let him in for him.
Scotty Minard has asked, "What's the best save you've made?"
To be fair, I've got a bit of a memory like a fish. I don't remember much. I remember there was a save I made for the Warriors one year in like a semi-final, which was like a spinorama, and just luck, to be fair. But luck was in my favour that day. I spun around and I hit it mid-air and cleared it from the line. But yeah, that was probably one of my best saves. Someone had it on record, so it's in the phone somewhere. But that was probably one of my best saves I've ever made.
Yeah, I'm going to actually add to this. There's one that I saw you make. I think it was not the season just gone, the season before, down at Solent. We won 9-0, but I think they actually outshot us. And I think you had a 41-shot shutout. And
yeah, probably the last game I played well in, actually.
No. But I think they took a shot and you sort of saved it in the front, but as you went down, the puck went out to the left, and as they shot it in, you just managed to move your right leg back, and I think it just caught the tip of your blade and stayed out. It was absolutely incredible. And then to finish with a shutout, it just made it even better.
Occasionally I play well. Very occasionally these days.
Leah and Dan has asked, who has got the hardest shot?
I mean, Cam and Grant both have really hard shots. Who else? Yeah, Cam and Grant shots, when they hit you, and they normally hurt.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I don't really know who else in our league. I'm sure there's other players, but I can't really remember at the moment. But yeah. Cam and Grant are big cat.
Yeah, I can't actually think of too many that actually wind up and hit the puck quite like Cam and Grant do.
Yeah, I always think my big brother, his shots always used to hurt, but I suppose when you're in the garden and you're not wearing much protection, they hurt a lot more.
Yeah, and he's probably trying to hit you rather than score.
Yeah, he was probably trying to hurt me anyway.
Linda Eater has asked, can you, obviously just talking about good saves there, but can you recall a game that was your greatest challenge, and did one of them involve a shootout?
A game, I don't really remember many games. That Solent game a few years ago stands out. Solent's always been a bit 50-50 for me, but I've always enjoyed playing there. Romford, we won there a couple weeks before the end of the season. We won in a shootout there, which was a good game. But yeah, no games really stand out to me as an unbelievable performance. As long as the team wins, I'm happy normally.
Yeah, and I suppose, to be fair, actually in a shootout, there's no pressure on you really at all, is there?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I always beat myself up when I let in goals, only because I always think, if you'd done this or if you'd done that, you could have saved it. But yeah, shootout's hard because it's so 50-50, but I try to save them all.
Yeah, but I suppose you probably got people as well that you kind of know what they're going to do, I suppose, as well, don't you?
Yeah, I've all the boys would say I probably guess a bit too much because I like the thrill of trying to know where they're shooting, not waiting. But yeah, I tend to know where people are going to shoot, and if I'm feeling quite good in training, I'll shout out before they shoot just to throw them off a bit.
Then we've got one for this stretch come from Georgia. It's come from my daughter Jocelyn. It's come from quite a few different people. Why do you wear number 44?
I never wanted to wear one. Someone once told me you should always have a routine before playing, and for me, my routine wanted to stay the same whether I was in the goal or not in the goal. So I never wanted to wear number one because everyone used to think number one was like the starting goalie. But so I never wanted to wear number one. 44 double numbers always stood out to me. I wore 33 for a bit, but I always liked Andreas Kaminskas for Romford. I mean, he was an unbelievable player. He's a brilliant man as well. And I always liked his number, so I sort of, when I could choose my own number, I sort of went with his 44. Yeah, but it's because of Kaminskas. Bomber.
Crack it. This one I'm looking forward to. I'm sure there's a story to this. Matty Turner has asked, what is today's fact of the day?
Today's fact of the day, God, it's caught me. I don't normally make facts of the day when I've not got hockey on, but I'll try and think of one in a minute. You have to ask me a few questions, and I'll let you know about a fact of the day.
Is that something you'd always bring up in the changing room? Then you'd always teach the boys a thing or two.
Yeah, to be fair, it started 4 or 5 years ago, and I remember on the way to hockey. I'm quite a boring person. I normally listen to LBC, and there was an advert that used to say one fact, and I used to get to training, and we'd be all sitting around stretching, and I would say, "Did you know?" And that was the fact of the day. And Will Polston was a big supporter of fact of the day, and every Tuesday and Thursday I used to come to training with a fact, and everyone used to love to hear it. So yeah, that's where it stemmed from, and I sort of I like the camaraderie around it. Everyone would get up and start laughing, or we'd start debating about the facts, whether it was true or false. So yeah.
Well, Will Polston's actually coming on at the start of next season, so we'll see if Will's got a fact of the day as well.
Yeah, he'll have a fact for you. He has just as many facts as me.
Now, the last couple here, unfortunately, I was going to sort of try and get this done with a video, and a couple of the young Cheiftains fans were going to come on and ask you these questions, but unfortunately, I've not been able to get it done. I'm sure that you're more than aware of Charlie and Sophia, who are big supporters of yours. Charlie wants to know if she can have one of your sticks.
There's some in the Cheiftains changing room. She can have them.
I'm sure
Luca's got them, I think.
Has he? I'm sure we all know where the changing room is. We just follow the smell.
Yeah.
And then we can find it.
It ain't my kit that smells, don't worry. I'll keep mine fresh.
Yeah, I think it was Dan Hitchens that won that this year at the awards for the smelliest kit.
Smelliest kit? No, it's not mine.
And Jaden Balker won for the person who will never shower.
Yeah, he don't like a shower. Maybe he showers at home, or maybe he likes a bath. That's what I'll put it down.
Like a bath, yeah.
Yeah, he probably likes a bath.
And Sophia's asked, I think it's a really good question. What movie franchise would you prefer to be a part of?
Harry Potter.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Marvel films or superhero films, but I love Harry Potter.
What house would you be in?
It can only be Gryffindor.
Yeah.
I've never done the test, but I'll answer the questions as if I was a Gryffindor to get Gryffindor.
maybe that's an inspiration for a helmet of the future.
Yeah, possibly. I like sticking with the more gangster adult films, because I think Harry Potter's a bit too Yeah.
It might give off the wrong impression.
Yeah, I try to be as manly as possible because I'm not very manly, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not really a very good man. I have real man friends to do man things for me.
Yeah.
But Sonny, thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining me this evening. I really appreciate you giving up your time. I'm glad we've finally sort of got this nailed in and managed to chat.
No, yeah, it's a pleasure. We'll have to do one again on video sometime.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
I'm still trying to think of a fact, though.
You're still trying to
bothering me. I said I'm still trying to think of a fact.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of one. I'm running out of time.
Well, as soon as you know what you are doing next season, make sure you come back on and tell us, and we'll do a video that way.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I'm going to enjoy my summer, definitely.
Absolutely. You fully deserve to as well.
But yeah, thanks for having me. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. You're very welcome, sir.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
A huge thank you to Sonny Phillips for taking half an hour out of his evening to join me. He's one of the players I desperately wanted to get on the podcast when I started doing it, and we finally nailed him down and got him on. And hopefully once we find out what he's doing next season, he will come back on and we'll do that over video this time so we can see, hopefully, his happy face as he tells us where he's going to be playing hockey next year. Well, that is it. Episode 31 is in the bank. It's been a really, really long one as well. I really do hope you enjoy it. I've certainly enjoyed doing it. Fantastic stuff from Anthony Russel as well, joining me for the season review. If you haven't checked out Banners on the Wall, make sure you go and do that next season, Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock live on YouTube. We do have one final episode for this season that is coming next week. There'll be as much Cheiftains news as we know, any other Chelmsford-based news, any other GB news that we know of. But the next week's episode will mainly be for the Solent Devils fans. I will be joined by Chico Cole, who'll be talking me through his career, his retirement, and his love of all things Solent Devils. So I do hope that you all join me for that. Despite obviously the team sort of rivalries, he's gone down as one of the best goalkeepers to ever play in this league. So I'm sure we'll all be interested to hear how his career has gone for him. Thank you again for joining me. Thank you everyone that shares and likes and sort of word of mouth spreads about the podcast. It really does all help grow it in certain different directions. And I really do appreciate all the lovely kind words that everyone does say to me about it. It does make it feel very worthwhile and time well spent. So hope this has been your time well spent. We've broken the 2-hour mark for the first time this season. Wonder if that'll be a thing to come. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. This podcast is hosted by Anchor on Spotify. It is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast outlets. Subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to get notifications about new episodes. Follow us on social media, Instagram at 0 Pucks Given Podcast, Twitter at 0 Pucks Pod, YouTube at 0 Pucks Given, email 0 Pucks Given Podcast at gmail.com. The music in this podcast is taken from Spotify and I do not own the tracks. Thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.